Otherwise, this impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua is ill-advised. And I can assure you, if Rigathi Gachagua is impeached any time, William Ruto will be one-term president.
He will?
Take it from me. He will be one-term president. A Kenyan who is respected all over the world because of their capacity to think. But when we are at home, we don't think, we think tribal. That's why I disagree with some of my colleagues, the Kalenjins. Because at times they want me to think like a Kalenjin. I think at a certain stage, when you reach certain menopauses, intellectual or otherwise, you cease to make statements carelessly. Because I strongly believe that yes, what Rigathi Gachagua is saying is genuine. And I'm happy. The Kalenjin station that he addressed yesterday, yesternight, we were able to see the other side.
Ladies and gentlemen, from whatever part of the globe you are watching us from, this is Richard Mwenja Exclusive. I'm Richard Mwenja. Welcome to the conversation. It is a distinct privilege to have your company with us. We continue unpacking conversations shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape, and also a touch of economic affairs that are in our country this far. And the gentleman who is going to help me unpack such conversations and bring them home today is none other than this think tank, Charangani's biggest expert, former Minister, Honorable Ruto Arab Tiro.
Yes, good afternoon.
I am well, good afternoon.
Yes.
Today you seem to be immersed in your thoughts. Why in this thoughtful element today?
I'm worried about our country. We seem to be going through some transition that is very uncertain. Uncertain in the sense that when there is a lot of name calling, a lot of mudslinging, a lot of exchange of not so friendly words in a nation, it becomes a disaster in the making. It worries me because yesterday I had a chance to go through some clip demonstrating launching of a book of the late Edward Muringe Sokoine, the Prime Minister of Tanzania at some stage, who passed on about 40 years ago through road accident. And listening to the speakers, the president herself, and many other speakers, including the former president, is a language of togetherness, a language of building the nation. And I would want to implore our fellow Kenyans that at times don't be shy to borrow the best from your neighbor. We need to borrow some sense of civility from Tanzania. I'm getting increasingly worried. We don't seem to be people who know that they live in the one country. And when we destroy this country, we do not have another place to go. I would want to go to Tanzania as a visitor, and somebody who lived in Tanzania in my formative days, with a lot of pride that I'm a Kenyan. But I don't want to go there as a refugee. A refugee has no value anywhere in the world.
Zero dignity for a refugee?
Zero dignity, because people consider you to be totally unable to take care of your own internal affairs. And this is the principle of international relations when it comes to the formation of nation, the formation of countries, the formation of societies that are seen to be civilized, that thou shalt take care of your own internal interest. So it worries me, Richard, when I see a lot of not so friendly words exchanged by our leaders.
So we could at some point end up in a Dadaab camp, but in a different country, if you're not careful.
Yes, anything is possible. Those people in the camp, they don't consider class. Once you are a refugee, whether you are a former minister, former president, you are treated the same. Yeah, you would be lucky actually to be given some measure of dignity when you are in the camp. It is like the post-election violence. You might have seen in Cherangani, we had a number of camps. One in Makutano, another one at Noigam Primary School. You could see somebody that has been living in a very decent environment, being reduced to sharing a pit latrine with some young children.
It makes sense.
It is something terrible. Refugee at home or refugee away, nothing makes anything better. You are just the same. Once you do not have the comfort of your compound, you are done. Whether you live in a crushed thatched house or you tiled house, your home is your home. You are better off at your place than in somebody's compound. Yeah.
You have mentioned of the need for our leaders to tread carefully when it comes to the kind of diction and tone they use while addressing matters of national interest. And I was amused the other day when Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, while calling out MP Wamaua over the need for us to not go after Rigathi Gachagua, Millie Odhiambo believes that in the event that Raila's Odinga's name is roped into Gachagua's impeachment, then they from the Nyanza backyard will go for Mount Kenya, seemingly a tit-for-tat game. When such members of parliament, especially seasoned ones like Millie Odhiambo, rise to the occasion with such remarks, what does that make you feel and think?
It worries me because you see the hallmark of leadership is patience, a lot of tolerance, and also putting other people's shoes so that you ask yourself, why is Richard behaving the way he's behaving? So if there is lack of understanding, it is a sign of a society that has an increase of bad manners, a society that is degenerating in terms of values, and a society that does not respect itself. Because we must accept that we come from 42 different communities forming the nation of Kenya. And any nation must also accept there are certain things that we have inherited, but we have a common destiny. We are destined for the same direction, and therefore we must tolerate each other. There are some certain values that some communities cherish, and other communities find them totally repugnant. But that should not make us use our own lenses to judge other people's communities. That is something that is worrying me increasingly, and none of the leaders today seems to be aware of that particular reality. That if we don't tolerate each other, then we go for each other's throat, which is very uncivil, very demeaning, and it is not supposed to be the Kenya of the 21st century.
Let's advance that conversation a bit. And barely 3 days ago, we saw Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua address a section of the Fourth Estate, the media. And in there, he went full throttle. And one of his revelations was that the president's AD, Farouk Kibet, is the gentleman behind troubles within Kenya Kwanza government. You've been here for quite a while as an elected leader in this country. Just who is Farouk Kibet, and what role do such powerful ADs to the president play in today's politics?
Well, the way I would want to put it is that the handlers of any leader will respond to the body language of that particular leader. Remember, in front of the president, the leader of the majority called the deputy president a snake that the president must get rid of, lest it will hit him back. And of course, when the president stood, he never said anything to that effect. But it seems he had given him tacit approval to say the things he was saying. So perhaps Farouk Kibet is also picking the cue from the boss. And this is where the president must rise to the occasion, that he is the head of state and is also the president and the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces of Kenya. And therefore, he should not be threatened by any individual, including his own deputy. He must rise to the occasion and also realize he's the father figure of the nation. And as a father figure, all children don't behave the same. And if Gachagua has anything that he's not happy with, he should share with him and allow him to sort out that particular issue. Otherwise, anything demeaning a leader in any leadership is demeaning the totality of that leadership. The president should not think that when his deputy is demeaned, send certain messages at night by MPs who are already in a bar or whatever situation they are in, being abused openly by the leaders around the president, is actually demeaning his own administration. He's telling people he's not capable of instilling good manners in the team that is around him. And the danger, they say in history, is that at times the problem with dictators is that there are people around them who dictate to him exactly what to do. And those people, when it comes to the hour of reckoning, Nobody will say this is regime that belongs to Faruk Kibet. They will say the Ruto regime. So Ruto ultimately will carry the last cross. That is my worry.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
You are an integral member, or rather element, in Kanu's regime under the leadership of President Moi, but therein lied influential men who are even bigger than you when it comes to political influence. Talk of Nicholas Biwott, the late, and a few others. For the likes of Kimani Ichung'wah, powerful men around the president like now Faruk Kibet, as you've mentioned, is it that they are too quick to forget that power is transient, and at some point that person offering immunity won't be there?
Yeah, you see, the main problem with people is that they are what I call temporary permanence. Temporary permanence in the sense that when they are in a certain situation, they think that situation is permanent. Nothing is permanent in the world. If you are to look at the history of the world for the last 100 years, things have been changing, at times within a span of 10 years, some of them within a span of 2 years, some of them within a span of slightly more than 40 years. Remember, in the last 2 centuries, Britain was leading in terms of the wealth of the world. It was the wealthiest nation in the world. Then America took over. Recently, Chinese took over. You don't know who is going to take over next. So at times you may dominate a certain space for a certain period, but that dominance is likely to be removed within the shortest time possible. Some regimes, they come to town with a lot of popularity, but within no time, they disappear and they are forgotten by the people that were celebrating them the other day. That's my worry. Yeah.
Moving on swiftly, sir. In a heated presser, when the DP barely 3 days ago was addressing a section of Kalenjin allied media outlets, revealed that a section of members of parliament from Rift Valley are insulting him, most of them sending him messages, calling him a fool and an idiot. But I want to understand, by the DP, Rigathi Gachagua, crying out more and revealing, lifting the lid on his tribulations, would you say that he's fanning the fire and there's need for him to recalibrate that?
Well, whatever he has said so far has been very useful. What I would advise him is to speak less, because we have heard. We have heard his cries. There are areas we feel he could have done better, but a number of areas we feel is vindicated to say the way whatever he has said. Vindicated in the sense that this is no longer the system where the president was elected and he could pick anybody in the midstream. Today, it's a pair. It's a ticket that provides for the two individuals. So whether you say the president was more popular than the deputy president, it's neither here nor there. That was a pair. And you respect, for us as a Kalenjin, as a true Kalenjin, or as a true Nandi, for that matter, somebody you go together vending for your survival. Whether you are the most intelligent in the team, you consider that person an associate that brought some goodies. And you have to respect that person, whether it participated or not. For example, when we used to engage in other activities, like raiding certain communities, and you get the cows, even if the person was killed in the crossfire, he will have to be given something because they recognize he was part of the struggle. So whether you recognize Rigji as a participant in the winning the 2022 election by the current president, is associated with that success, and he was a good omen. Otherwise, why didn't you pick somebody else as your deputy or your running mate? So don't demean anybody that you've gone to the struggle together. Even somebody you've had a good time, when you disagree, better disagree without a lot of name calling, a lot of acrimony, a lot of altercations, a lot of unnecessary face making. Disagree with him and say, okay, I wish you well, let me go my way, may you go and succeed wherever you're going. Otherwise, this impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua is ill-advised. And I can assure you, if Rigathi Gachagua is impeached any time, William Ruto will be one-term president.
He will?
Take it from me. He will be one-term president. There are no gymnastics he's going to play. And you cannot play with a community that is 50% holders of GDP of Kenya, the African GDP, leave alone these foreigners and so forth. The African GDP, the Mount Kenya bloc, holds 50% of that GDP.
But maybe he would dare
and 26% of the voting bloc. Yeah. So they can go to another dispensation and say, come, we give you 26, bring your 12.
But maybe the ouster is informed by the reality of today that he has Luo Nyanza behind his back. So he feels he'll take solace in Luo Nyanza in 2027. Mount Kenya can do what they wish.
Well, there are two blocks in Kenya that you can rely on their vote.
Which is?
The Kalenjin bloc. They can either vote for you or vote against you. And the Kikuyu bloc or the Mount Kenya bloc, they can either vote for you or vote against you. The Luo and the Luya, they are too democratic to rely on unless one of their own is running.
Unless one of their own is running.
Remember, 600,000 voters did not turn out in the Luo constituencies because they had a problem of direct ticket to the candidates. And therefore, their spirit was dampened. They did not come to vote for Raila. Raila lost to William Ruto by a difference of 200,000 votes. Raila would be president today. Did not disappointed the Luo Nyanza by giving direct tickets to sitting members of parliament. So some of these stories should be recalibrated so that you realize that better one hand at hand than two birds in the bush. The person who said that is not me. It was said many years before I was born.
I see.
The second issue is that William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta had made history, bringing two communities that were so antagonistic to each other, the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. In 2007, they were going for each other's throat. In 2013, they came together as a referendum against the Hague. And it's one of the credentials I gave to William Ruto, even when I was working with him, that you've made history by bringing the two communities together that were hitherto fighting. And I told him, if you make another history of being voted by the Kikuyu community for the first time in the history of Kenya, and these are facts, then you'd have had two credentials on your plate. The third credential that I wanted him to have is to have a genuine organic political party. Not the party that does not even comply with the Registrar of Societies today called UDA, and yet it is a ruling party. These are some of the things that I said for free. And we had discussed with him that should he win the election, I want to take 6 months, go to Tanzania and South Africa and do understudy of CCM and ANC of South Africa, so that we build in Africa genuine political vessels that outlive the leaders of the day. Genuine political vessels that bring communities together instead of having a regimen of coalition of tribes or a coalition of cult of two individuals coming together and you say now things have been solved.
Coalition that would stand the test of time.
The test of time, and a coalition that will subordinate tribalism in Kenya. A coalition that will allow Kenyans to look at each other as Kenyans. At times when somebody tells you, I'm James, oh, what's your second name? Because you want to know his tribe. You know, for me, that is below the integrity of a Kenyan. A Kenyan who is recognized internationally. A Kenyan who is respected all over the world because of their capacity to think. But when we are at home, we don't think, we think tribal. That's why I disagree with some of my colleagues, the Kalenjins. Because at times they want me to think like a Kalenjin. And yet, I'm a student of international relations. I've traveled in the world. I've lived in Tanzania for 10 years. I've lived in Ethiopia for 4 years. And I've lived in Somalia, part of that period in Ethiopia. And you want me to think as a Kalenjin or like a Kalenjin?
Huyu ni mtu wetu.
Hapana. Ni mtu wao lakini si wangu.
You're a global citizen.
I'm a global citizen, and I believe, first of all, I'm an African. Yeah, then I'm a Kenyan.
And you're not sponsored by anyone, because we've seen claims of people like you believe in a cause to be sponsored by certain financiers.
I wish I had that financial, because I need money more than you do.
There's zero foundation behind all these calls that you're making on the show?
The only foundation is in my mind. Yeah.
Come on, spill the beans, sir.
Which beans?
You're
There are
honest.
none. You spill what is there.
All right,
Yeah.
very well. And I want to understand something here. Court Secretary General Francis Atwoli, barely 4 days ago, has called for the arrest of DP Rigathi Gachagua, saying that he's now becoming an ambassador of disunity. And there's need for him to be tamed because he's sabotaging the president. Do you read an ounce of wisdom behind Atwoli's remarks?
Well, I don't know what to tell at all. He's the same guy who was telling Wazes from Sugoi that cut all the trees, otherwise your son will commit suicide by hanging. And yet he was the first one to go back to William Ruto and almost apologize. You know, I think at a certain stage, when you reach certain menopauses, intellectual or otherwise, you cease to make statements carelessly. Because I strongly believe that yes, what Rigathi Gachagua is saying is genuine. And I'm happy. The Kalenjin station that he addressed yesterday, yesternight, we were able to see the other side. I've realized what I said on Monday. There is a cabal of opportunists who have hijacked our president and making him to do their dirty job. People who believe that the president is their project, and by him winning, therefore they won, and anybody else is subordinate to them. Because you see, if we don't respect the order, it's a state of anarchy. You know, just check the definition of anarchy. People who don't submit to authority are anarchists. Therefore, they submit that the only authority is President Ruto. Then below him, there is nobody.
Inconsequential.
Inconsequential, whether they are ministers, whether they are PSS, whether it's the deputy president, they are managing directors of certain parastatals, they don't recognize them. They say the boss has said this. And this is what is spreading corruption here in Kenya. That is something we must stamp out of our presence. I'm not saying it because I support Gachagua. Well, perhaps it is the reason why I never stuck with Ruto all the way to the end. Because I could see, as somebody who has done industrial psychology, I could see the two of them have the same character. They are both combative.
Siamese twins?
Yeah, they are twins from, well, I don't know what to call them. They are brothers from different mothers. The same character as their father. Because both of them are very combative. Both of them are opinionated at times. Both of them hardly listen to the end. Remember, even regarding last night, he was almost answering questions halfway. But at times, listen to the question. You may get the answer in that question. Yeah.
You've mentioned that a cabal of opportunists have hijacked the president for their own interest.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're a seasoned leader. Is it that the president is too shackled that he cannot do something about it? Or he lacks the will, generally, to address the concerns of Kenyans?
You know, there is what we call make-believe. Make-believe is an individual who wants to create the impression that he means well for you. His interest is in your interest. Your interest is in his interest. But these are people who have access to the president, and they'll be bombarding him with certain messages about an individual until the president, because he's also a human being, almost gets weak and at times does not want to get involved in the dirty job. So they do the dirty job for the president, and in the process, they mess this regime. This is the problem that we are faced with. The other thing is lack of discipline, even in political parties. And I would want to advise again that impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua may be the end of our national unity and cohesion. I'm advising on that. I may not like him, but impeaching him, you are courting a disaster in Kenya.
It is said that success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. In the event that this regime goes down history as the worst when it comes to fulfilling their pledges, do you foresee a situation whereby even lieutenants who are right now at the center of this regime, they will run away from the blame in the fullness of time?
I've seen them. I've had the opportunity of being overseeing as an adult 3 regimes. I saw when Moi took over, I think 4. One, the Moi taking over, Kibaki taking over, Uhuru taking over, and Ruto taking over. Remember, many people now who are calling shots in Ruto's government were in Azimio. And they have come here and they are behaving better than Kenya Kwanza individuals. When the late Mzee Kenyatta passed on, some people are almost apologizing, and some ran out of the country temporarily because of the sins they feel they had committed against President Moi. When President Moi moved on and Kibaki came in, there are many people from the Moi regime who wanted to look like they actually believed in Kibaki, but there were certain shackles that were holding them away from Kibaki.
Barriers to entry.
Yeah. Then when Uhuru took over from Kibaki, which was a seamless transition, I remember one of the mistakes was to almost recall all the ambassadors as if it was a revolution. And some of the individuals were now jostling to prove that they were with Uhuru more than they were even with Kibaki. So we've seen some people who are with Uhuru running away, crossing over, including some of the members of Jubilee Party, crossing over to President Ruto. So I'm sure if anything happened to this regime, sooner or later, you will see so many people running away, running to the new regime. And some of us who are not in Ruto's regime might be trampled on by those guys running to prove that they were not with Ruto. It was just a convenience for the time being. Those things happen. Yeah.
Lastly, sir, let's circle back a bit. For Rigathi Gachagua, by going full throttle on President Ruto, revealing his tribulations in the government of the day, is there something that Rigathi Gachagua knows that we out here don't know?
Well, one thing that is positive about what he has said is the fact that it's good to know to the extent of the disagreement between Gachagua and Ruto. Do you know, Richard, here as we are here, we don't know where Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta parted ways. Remember, they used to wear similar shirts, similar ties, and they used to behave almost like twins. But when they parted ways, they were more bitter than people who have never known each other. So I'm happy Rigathi is telling us the truth. And of course now he's the man of the truth. He's proving that he's actually the man of the truth.
The truthful man of God?
Yeah, truthful man of God. He's telling us as is. He's not just keeping quiet. Because one day I asked President Ruto.
It ain't choreographed? Scripted?
No, it's not scripted. It is natural. It is him. I asked President Ruto at some stage, where did you differ with President Kenyatta when we were very good friends? He spent a lot of narrative that was very interesting to listen. Later on, I realized he had not told me where they parted ways with Kenyatta.
He never pinpointed the truth?
No, he never told me anything that I can remember now. And my memory is not as bad as it may be seen by others. So, I'm happy. Rigathi Gachagua, the man of the truth, has told us the truth.
Well, there you have it. Rigathi Gachagua, the man of the truth, has spoken the truth to power. That is what Mheshimiwa Kipchumba Arap Kirwa believes in. How about we now cross over to this insightful segment that you all have embraced so quick? That is none other than Heroes Corner with Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Saa Mashujaa Day is just around the corner.
Yes.
We want to understand today, nani shujaa wetu kwa hii segment?
Abdel Nasser.
Abdel Nasser.
He was born 1918, somewhere in North Africa. He joined the military and was a senior military officer. And he was in charge of certain changes that took place in Egypt. And in 1956, he was elected the president of Egypt. And he did a lot of land reforms for that country. Brought a lot of freedom to the nation of Egypt, a lot of reforms also including issues of allowing people to have sustainable sources of income. He passed on in 1970. We do not know under what circumstances, but that is the man who served in Africa. He was in charge of many programs that liberated the rest of the continent. That is Abdel Nasser.
He was not just a son of Egypt, but a son of Africa?
A son of Africa. With Arab blood, Arab skin, but African content. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Abdel Nasser, that is our hero for the day. Until we meet next time on Richard Mwenja Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Have a great day ahead. Mheshimiwa, thank you for selecting time for this particular production.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
It is?
It's always my pleasure. Yeah, I like sharing my naivety, my wisdom, my aspirations and frustrations with the rest of Kenyans. Yeah.
Don't you think that will make you grow older a bit fast?
No.
Thinking too much about this country?
But it's my country. I don't have an alternative. Where elsewhere I go as a visitor. But this is my country. This is my continent. This is my home. Yeah.
And home must be respected, in the words of
all the time. And eventually, if everything else fails, you go back home.
Cherangani.
Yeah, I go to Cherangani.
There you have it. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. I'm at Mwenja Richard on X and on TikTok. Let's engage.